Incredibly tragic. In doing so, she discovered a remarkable source of emotional resilience and a process for imparting it to others. So while Jenetta has been associated with several headline stories, including counseling the mother of a highly publicized teenage cyberbullying suicide and assisting victims of terrorist attacks, she is inspired to help people with processing their day-to-day challenges. I'm so excited to hear this talk. So the title of the talk is The Positive Power of Negative Thinking. Jenetta, thank you very much. Give a round of applause, everyone.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes, thank you. All right, so just one moment. I've just got to do what I need to do to feel okay about myself. Hold on. Here I go. Do you like my earring? I'm starting a new trend, and you want one, you know, they're kind of good. But this kind of depicts where I was growing up and as an adult. It was always remarked, this amazing smile I have. I mean, Joe, you talking about a face that you put on and always a smile and always being positive and always out to make sure that the most positive outcomes come out of whatever it was I did in my life. And you can see that it's kind of like, here, I could sit here for the rest of this talk talking like this because I'm positive on this side and I'm only wearing one earring. So we're in a world, especially in the Western world, where we're kind of addicted to being positive. It's an addiction. And it actually started 160 years ago, really amusingly, by a man called Sam Smiles. His name was Mr. Smiles. And he set about to the learned few to explain to them that the way to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, and to really be acceptable citizen number one, was to eradicate all negative thought, word, and deed in your talk and actions, and only concentrate on being positive and all the positive traits in your life. And then you would be healthy, wealthy, and wise. And that only got to the learned few until the Second World War. At the end of the Second World War, some of you might know him, Norman Vincent Peale. I show my age because I know him. But Norman Vincent Peale wrote a book called The Power of Positive Thinking in 1952. It was very, very much needed because the nightmare of the Second World War was around everybody, and everybody was looking for some form of light. So he came in going, because everything's so negative, it's really important you're as positive as you can possibly be in all areas of your life. And so everybody took on this mantra and has been taking on this mantra for a long time. And now I'm going to show you why this doesn't work and why it's out of balance. Here I am out of balance still. And I'm going to use, Elliot will laugh because he wondered what I meant on Friday, but I'm going to use the theatre of your mind because our minds have a wonderful way of painting a picture without me actually putting slides up. So I'm going to get you to imagine that your body represents your psyche, your thoughts and your emotions, your consciousness and your unconscious consciousness. So just imagine that this is your body representing your psyche. And in between your 2 feet is a line of balance. That line of balance of your thoughts and your emotions. And imagine that you've got 1 foot on one side and 1 foot on the other side, and your feet represent, and your body represents your psyche. Now, the whole world is made up of cycles. It's cyclical. Whether it's the noise coming out my mouth right now, or female cycles, or the weather, or trends and cycles in business. This talk is about business. We all know about up cycles, ebbs, flows, down cycles, and so on. And even the electricity that's lighting up my face to be able to speak to you. Everything works in cycles. And if you study cycles in science, you'll find out, and we've all found out, that a cycle requires equal amount of positive and negative charge for it to be empowered. And that if you put more on one side of the cycle than the other, it gets very elongated and slow and distorted and heavy. And so we all understand that that's the law. If you bring it in, when we learned how to bring the elongated, slow energy of electricity and harness it and balance it, we were able to bring it into manageability and use it very powerfully. So this we understand in all walks of life, but we've been fed really the myth that our psyches don't follow that rule, and that our brain waves and our emotions and our thoughts don't have those cycles, that we can only operate on the positive cycle to be accepted and loved and lovable. So now I'm going to carry on showing you how to use your body as representative of your psyche. So imagine that your right foot is this positive side and your left is your negative side. Let's just say that that's where you're going. And each side of that line of balance, you're having a wobbly. You're going positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. So it's like a finely tuned engine, really finely tuned, ticking over, going from one side. In other words, it's really important to have wobblies in life. If you're not vibrating there, and you try and put both feet on the line of balance, you're going to find that you flatlined, and there's no sound, light, vibration, or energy in that particular cycle. So here you are vibrating, and now suddenly you're told that it's really important to be positive. There are almost 5,000 human traits listed in the dictionary. Approximately half are positive and half are negative. So let's say we take on the psyche that it's really important to be positive. So here we are trying to be more and more positive. And then we go, let's say for each time we're being positive, we take a step to the right. So off we go. Kind, thoughtful, loving, giving, gentle, peaceful, philanthropic, da, 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 da. And let's say we did get to 2,500 traits. I can't see that would ever be possible, but let's say we did. Can you see how far away from that balance line we've taken ourselves on the positive side of the cycle of our thoughts and emotions and our psyche? We call this being in a place of fantasy, and also priding yourself that you've got things right. You see my positive side's falling down. And priding ourselves that we're getting it right, that we're loved and we're lovable and everybody enjoys us and we're fine. But because our inherent knowledge knows that we're out of balance, it catapults us over to the other side and takes us to a place in the equal and opposite direction of that line of balance. And there we go into a place of nightmare and guilt and shame for not being able to meet the standards that we had set ourselves on the other side. And the more you try to be more positive or more negative, so your Gothic type of people who have become very attached to feeling negative and down, or your very hyper people who, by example, me, was always positive, big smile, la 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 la. So I was more attached to being that. The more you try and be more one side than the other, the more you polarize yourself from this line of center, and the more bipolar you become. And so what happens is when you find the skills and techniques to be able to reverse those polarities, so you bring in your positive and your negative thoughts and feelings into a place of centered manageability, what happens is, if you keep on drawing that drawing in your mind, you create two half-wave cycles on that line of balance. When you get to the top of that figure S, you create what we call in science a photon. And photon in Greek means light. And you become lighter. I watch people I work with suddenly go, oh my word, I never thought of it that way before. I've never felt their bodies change, their brain changes, everything changes in an instant when they have this photon moment, which I call an epiphany moment. And so what happens is, the next thing that you're most charged up about, you've now got the skills and techniques to start reversing the polarity on that particular charge, to create another half-wave cycle to another epiphany moment, and again and again. So it's giving permission to allow all the things that you buried, the thoughts and feelings that are charged inside you, to come up safely and use these really valuable skills. And in fact, the whole of your diagram is topped by the infinity sign, as you understand that doing this is a never-ending story. So I call it going to mental and emotional daily gym. So that's basically it in a nutshell, is understanding that there is equal value in being negative as there is disservice, and there's equal disservice in being positive as there is value. So how do we get to here so that I end up and you end up with 2 earrings? There we go. I look like a battery now. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, I'm going to today give you just a couple of steps to help you on especially in these times, on how to start looking at things positively in a different way, and how to embrace the negative in a positive way. So the first thing that I would suggest is that you look at what you would normally do. What has worked in a day? So say you've had the most awful day. At the moment, you're having perhaps the most awful time. So you do what everybody else does, which is, oh, okay, I'm going to list what did work. You know, my husband was really loving and did some thoughtful things to me and for me, and you know, that list of what did work, that's not relevant to what didn't work. And so you would list that, and that's the normal thing you would do. That's why people think being positive, we can be thankful and grateful, and that's an important list. I'm not dismissing that list. It's a very vital list. That attitude of gratitude really, really works. But your next step takes you out of a comfort zone, and you start listing in your next step what's not worked. So you start going, okay, I lost a project today. I lost a project because I'm not at the office. I'm working from home. And that project was supposed to be out in the open and nobody can get there. So I've lost that. It could be that I had an argument with my boss and they are so bombastic and awful. And so you carry on writing what didn't work in that day. And you put your first list away, which you can do with ease. And now you're going to do, because the secret now is to look into each item you've listed that didn't work in that day. And I'm giving you the simple start of this. This gets far more deeper with time, but these are the first simple steps. So you start listing what didn't work, and then asking yourself, so, okay, this project fell through because it happened and it enabled me to use my problem-solving skills. So you start listing where it served you. After you've, maybe it's the project that's the one that's got the most charge for you. And then you could say, in actual fact, it pushed me to reach out to a friend who thinks on the same level as me, who has very good ideas, and we we started brainstorming, and now new out-of-the-box ideas have come from it, and it's pushed us to start renegotiating the project and helped us to sharpen our negotiation skills. Oh, and I used my negotiation skills when I was dealing with this client today. I came out with some real pearls of wisdom in my communication skills, and when I got home, I used it on my 9-year-old son. So if that project had gone on as planned, there would have been the list of where it had served. So this is not saying that wouldn't serve. But what you're now doing is seeing where you get skills, techniques, experience, and exposure. And we use 7 life areas, which I would love to share with you in another opportunity with more time to expand. But we use 7 life areas, and then you start seeing what skills, techniques, experience, and exposure this has given to you, and where it's had a knock-on effect in all other areas of your life. So if the plan of action I originally had that was so dependent on had occurred and had run smoothly, I'd have lost out on the ability to talk differently to my son. I'd have lost out on the ability to draw closer and have new communication skills with this colleague. And I wouldn't have had those experiences and that exposure. So that gives you a very basic first 3 steps on how to deal with the positive power of negative happenings and negative feeling. So basically, this takeaway today is being able to understand that when you're attached to believing that one way of things happening, or way of things having happened, or the fact that somebody is doing something to you or with you that you don't agree with, it's being able to understand where whatever adversity you're dealing with right now has equal amount of opportunity. Now, we all understand that, but to go deeper, equal amount of opportunity on the negative side, where it's giving you skills, techniques, experience, and exposure that if things had gone to plan, you would be missing out on. So thank you so much for being with me, and it's just been such an honor.